How about some Seahawks talk, Bob? What do you say?
Sure, let's switch it up.
Well, we're already, you know what? It's like 4 days into camp, and we're already going to do a little bit here on unsung Seahawks. Mm-hmm. Not that we're getting past the point, but we've regurgitated Percy Harvin and everything like that. And this kind of came from our conversation today with Dave Bowling of the News Tribune. You can catch out the podcast online. I believe it referred to a column that he wrote either today or yesterday. And it's classic because unsung guys by definition are seemingly offensive linemen, and maybe the most unsung of them all is the guy right there in the middle. And the Seahawks have one of the best in the league who was able to fly under the radar and still does, even with being in the Pro Bowl last year. And that's Max Unger.
Yeah, Pro Bowl and an All-Pro and on the top 100 list for the NFL Network. He's kind of received all these accolades that the elite in the league get, yet the attention isn't really paid to him despite those accolades, right? He's not a guy you talk about, and I don't know how many centers you actually discuss, but he's a guy that quietly is the general of that offensive line, right? He's the one that's sort of calling the plays, if you will. He's calling on blocking schemes. He's making sure guys
not sort of, that's what he does.
But he's kind of responsible for everybody doing their thing there, and he just kind of quietly does it and is very, very good at it. And he would be, we've seen these guys injured. We've seen him shift everybody around, and Okung's been injured, and Carpenter and Moffitt, everybody. If he were to leave that line, I think then you'd see a drastic difference. As much as I love Okung, and he's the other unsung hero on that line in my estimation, but Max Unger's value, I think, is very underappreciated.
I couldn't agree more. You've got Paul McQuiston, who in a pinch can play almost any position, and that might even include center. But, Dave used the comparison to Robbie Toback, who when he came here, by the way, Toback had already played in the Super Bowl with Atlanta, was a veteran, and I really have gotten the same sense from Unger. There's a confidence that those guys have that's different from other offensive linemen, and part of it is calling out the blocking assignments and kind of knowing everything. The ones who are really good at it have that seemingly. I don't know what it is, confidence or it really is confidence, I think, more than anything. And Unger, you're talking about a guy who's just been in the league for a couple of years and is immediately a leader. I happen to think that he is one of the top 5 guys in terms of if they lose him, it's a big problem.
Huge deal.
He is a very difficult guy to replace. And we saw that when he was out earlier, right at the start of his career, nowhere near as effective. And granted, the team wasn't as good, but in a lot of ways compared to what they are now. So, yeah, I think Dave hit the nail on the head with one of the most important Seahawks.
Well, and I think he really plays a role similar to the way we talked about Brendan Ryan. When you had Kyle Seager and Dustin Ackley up there, 2 guys in positions they weren't familiar with, they weren't natural third baseman and second baseman, and Kyle Seager and Dustin Ackley both talked about how much he helped them grow in those positions and how much he kind of covered their back. And I think you've seen the same thing with Max Unger, except that he's an All-Pro and he's a Pro Bowler, and he had shifting guys next to him, guys that it wasn't a consistent line, right, because of injuries, and guys were moving around, and he was that calming force. He was that guy that put people in the right spots and told them what they're supposed to be doing, and sort of, I don't want to say babysat them, but he kind of played that same voice of reason, that calming voice, and made sure everybody was on the right page and showed them basically how to play.
Max, we're singing.